We're back for part 3 of our club preview series where we're previewing Port Adelaide, Richmond, and who else are we previewing?
St Kilda. Come on!
Hello and welcome back to Off the Mark, an AFL Fantasy podcast. I'm Mason.
And I'm Casey, and we're finally here. I've been waiting so long to get to this team. My beautiful Port Adelaide. I'm repping the I don't even know what this is. I think this is 2008, like the original, back before this was a retro jersey.
Yes, it looks like it.
I do like this one a lot.
Old Footy Park.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to get into this straight away. But yeah, AFL for Port Adelaide, it's real, and I'm so excited this year because it's such a proper fantasy relevant team this year. Like we've got
very much. Well, should we get straight into it then?
Yeah, rightio. All right. Well, heading straight into Port Adelaide. Looking back last year, top 3 players for the Power were Connor Rozee, averaging 104, Zach Butters 99, then Ollie Wines was actually third highest, averaging with 89. For their CBAs, it was a bit of a Zach Butters, Willem Drew kind of Ollie Wines. Horn Francis and Connor Rozee didn't get too much CBAs at all because Connor Rozee moved back to the halfback, and Jason Horn Francis spent a lot of time up forward last year. So if you look, the first half of the season he was averaging 75% CBAs, and then back half of the season went out to the forward line. Connor Rozee kind of did the same and then jumped back in the middle of the back. But it was, usually Zach Butters was your number 1, then Willem Drew, underrated by the way, and then Ollie Wines in there as well. So that was your top 3. It could be a little bit different this year. But anyway, onto the kick-ins for Port Adelaide last year. It was Kane Farrell, number 1. He had 97 of them, and then Connor Rozee was the second highest, which was great for fantasy, with 56. And kick-ins are going to be very exciting for a little bit that I bring up later on. But yeah, let's just start right with the big numbers, right on the top. I'm going to go with the CBA mix and what I think it will be for Port Adelaide this year. Number 1, you can't look past it, Zach Butters. He's the number 1 midfielder for Port Adelaide this year. I reckon he's going to average number 1 CBAs. There's a lot of talk. He's going to Carlton next year. He's going somewhere next year. What's going to happen? Even so, I doubt it's going to be him sit back. Oh, this is my last year. I'm not going to try. If anything, he's going to try even harder to get his contract signing worth the more, or get his trade value, or whatever it is.
He wants a bit of cash.
Exactly right. That's exactly right. And you got to play well to get the cash. So I reckon Zach Butters, he averaged.
Carlton have got the cash to give. Carlton have got the cash and the picks to give.
Do indeed.
By the way.
Do indeed. Yeah, very, very relevant shirt you're wearing today. I like it. And it will be when we get to the Saints as well. Anyway, sorry. He averaged 102 after the bye last year, and it was unreal. Had a season high 152 in the last game of the home and away season, and you're only as good as your last game. So with anything, he comes back firing right at the start. And Port Adelaide, this was on a whole, Port Adelaide have an unreal matchup, like the Green Mile, if you call it. We start with the Kangaroos, then we go the Bombers, West Coast, St Kilda, and even more. But those first 4 games, it's actual just an unreal lineup, and I can easily see us starting with 3 or 4 Port Adelaide, maybe even 5 if you're like crazy like me. But yeah, starting at the top,
no buy.
No buy. Yeah, proper fantasy relevant team. So Zach Butters for me, he's in my team. I assume he's in your team as well. He is my M2.
Yeah.
You can't go past it, I think. Anything you need to hear from Zach Butters? I think that what are you thinking?
I don't think so. I mean, he's not. I don't have the stats in front of me. I'll get them quickly, but I don't feel like he's ever had like we talk about guys who from the past have been they're below on value because they've averaged 105, they've averaged blah blah. But there you go. So he's had a 106 average in the 2024, which is better. But that's his only season over 100. So last year, as much as we talk about him being underpriced, was his second best season. So yeah, I mean, I would want to be seeing probably good things from Port Adelaide as opposed to just him. I feel like if Port are playing well, he's going to play well. So that's probably what I'd be looking for more, but yeah, nothing specifically from him, I don't think. No.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I will mention that Zach Butters is taggable, and we saw that last year. All of his all of his floor scores from last year. He had a 62 and even a 37 last year. They were the two of the games that he got proper hard tagged. One from Geelong and one from, I think it might even be the Hawks or something like that. But yeah, he is taggable. But like I said, this is a fantasy preview. We're looking for blokes who can at least start the year, and then if they get to harder matchups later on, we can trade them out. But put Adelaide right for the start. I reckon you got to have him in there. The Roos, West Coast, Bombers, Saints, they're not tagging, and they're not in the first 4 games. And I reckon Port Adelaide are going to do all right. Exactly. They beat all of those teams decently last year, and I can see them at least doing that again this year. So if you look for Port Adelaide to be good, I reckon they will be. All right. Next up on the top of the list for the Power is Connor Rozee, priced $1,092,000. It was pretty good to see him in defence. I thought he switched after round 5, and he was unreal. And it'd be interesting to see if the Power line up there again. I reckon they will. I'm not going to put Rozee in my list of where I think he's going to be in the CBAs, because I reckon he sat quite nicely in what's it called, in the back half. Yeah, he averaged 100 when he was.
I think as well, particularly with, and I assume you're going to talk about a certain someone moving from the back line into the midfield at least more prominently this year.
Yeah.
I don't see them moving probably their 2 best defenders or people playing in the back line, not specifically defenders. I don't think they're going to move both of them into the midfield, especially when they already have, Butters, Drew, Wines, these midfielders, Horn Francis, readily available.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think he stays back.
Yeah, for sure. And he averaged 100 on the dot when he attended over 50% of CBAs, and when he averaged under 50% CBAs, he had averaged 107. So both are really good, especially like any bloke that's averaging over 100. It doesn't matter. So he's a lock for that, but an extra good if we see in the preseason that he's playing off the half back, then he's going to be averaging more than he would if he was in the middle. If you're with me. He's a lot of people's D1. I reckon he'd probably be one of the most selected for D1 in we don't have the ownership stats just yet, I don't think, but I reckon you got to have him. So there you go. Butters and Rozee, 2 that you probably should have straight away. This next guy, is...
Quickly on those 2, sorry if I can butt in.
Yep, all good.
We talk about the run. The run is fantastic. North, Essendon, West Coast, Richmond, St Kilda. And this probably means more for Butters than it does for Rozee. Afterwards, they go round 6, Hawthorn, round 7, Geelong. The 2 teams that tagged Butters last year, and they love to tag, they could go to a Rozee, but I think they go to a Butters. And after that, Crows, Bulldogs, Gold Coast. Their next easy matchup is probably Carlton just before their bye. With particularly these 2 premiums, I mean, we can talk about some underpriced guys later who we're probably willing to hold more towards the bye. But with these premiums where you're kind of getting them at or just below what you're hoping they're going to do, are you looking to move them off after that St Kilda game in round 5? All the buys will be done. Are you looking to move them off to a player off their buy, or are you just going to go, you know what, you've done me well for the last 5 rounds in easy matchups. Let's see how you go against the big boys, and I'll be willing to hold you. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think that Connor Rozee definitely would be able to hold. I think he averaged really well even when he played harder teams and harder matchups last year, and when you play a harder team for your footy team, like if you're going to be losing to that team, the ball's going to be in the back half of your ground more than often than not. It's as simple as that. And if he's playing in the back half where the ball is, Connor Rozee, definitely. So I see him not necessarily benefiting, but I don't see him going down against a harder team. Zach Butters is different though. Zach Butters, as I said before, he is a taggable player, and I will be looking at that like tag watch kind of thing. Like if teams are known to tag, like your Geelongs, like your Hawthorns.
Worries me.
Yeah, even a St Kilda with Windhager, but does he still play there? I can't remember. Anyway, so you will keep an eye on those for Zach Butters especially, but that, like you said, that gets you to round 4, and he should have some pretty high ceiling scores in those first 3 rounds. He'll juice them up that you can jump off to someone who is not necessarily more like a better player in fantasy scoring, but who doesn't have as lower floor. So I reckon Zach Butters has got one of the highest ceilings with like your Bontempellis or like your Jordan Dawsons, maybe even a Jai Caldwell who we saw score 160s, but his floor is lower than some of those higher guys. So jump off him to one of those other guys with a higher floor. That's what I see for him. Yeah. Moving on. Yep, moving on to number one is in my defense, in my fantasy team currently. He is sitting in my D3, is Miles Bergman. He's 822k. Yeah, as a midfielder last year, he was unreal. He had 3 games where he was in the midfield for 80% of CBAs or more, 82, 86, and 87% of CBAs. And he averaged 97 for those 3 games, one of which was a 111 and 2 high 90 scores. So he's proven to score when he's in the midfield. Now, this is what I was talking about with Port Adelaide. I reckon Miles Bergman, and there's a lot of talk, everyone's going to play in the midfield, everyone's training in the midfield. I reckon this is actually legit. Like, you always have those blokes who are training, like we saw it with, who was it? Riley Sanders last year. All of the preseason, all the talks about he's going to be in the midfield. All preseason he was in there. All Amy series he was in there. Comes to round 1, he wasn't in there. And we're all like, what the hell? Yeah. I reckon this is legit though. Port, new coach, Josh Carr, new coach. They're looking to move some magnets around. I reckon Miles Bergman showed just how good he was when he played in the midfield. As more of a lockdown player as well. I'm not sure, this is more of a footy perspective rather than a fantasy perspective, but this is just adding to the case of why he will be in there. It was a lockdown defender when he was in the midfield. So in the scratch match that the Power had, like the intra-club against Port Adelaide themselves, he was lined up in the midfield against Connor Rosie and held him reasonably well. So I can see them not necessarily as a tag, but just as someone to run with him. Like a lot of, I know you're a big, you don't like when the commentators are like, oh, it looks like he's copping a tag just because the blokes are running next to him. But I reckon he's kind of that kind of,
exactly.
one of those kind of guys. So I reckon, watch it in the preseason and in the intra clubs. But I genuinely think this is talk that could happen. And if he does, I just spoke out the 90. Yep.
I think one thing to watch with these preseason things, because quite often they're going to have to fill out 2 teams, obviously, so they're going to need 2 midfields, which means there's going to be more midfielders. And guys like this who, like, say Bergman wasn't going to play midfield during the year, they probably would still put him in just because he, will pop in there for a few CBAs. So I think the important thing to note, and we might have to get out to an open training session to see this, give you some inside scoop as professional reporters, is to, like, if the CBA mix is like Bergman, Horn Francis, I don't know, Will Brodie. Like Bergman is kind of like you would assume the number 1 midfielder in there. Like that's, whereas if the team is, Butters, Rosie, Bergman, and he's that 3rd man, he's actually kind of the 6th man when you add in the other midfield. So you've got to kind of like, I would say you have to figure out the pecking order from that. Because there are some extra players. But in Miles Bergman's case, I am in agreement with you. I think that he will be moved into the midfield. Yeah. It does slightly scare me that there's a chance that it doesn't work and they move him back just because they have enough midfielders to throw around in there. Yeah. Ollie Wines has got this suspension for the first 2 games. If he doesn't work, do they just go, you know what, we've got a midfielder coming straight in who we trust, let's just replace you with him? Like that scares me. But if he's in the midfield and he's scoring well, that's all I need to see. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. He still averaged 82, I think it was last year. What was it? 80, 84, something.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's not terrible if
good
he
scorer when he goes down back. So yeah. But and what I mean is that if he does go back, then we'll have a week to watch, and we won't. It's not an instant trade. It's not like it's a drop of 45, 50 points. It would only be 15 tops. So it's holdable for a week if you've got other issues as well, which is what I like about him. His floor isn't particularly low. Doesn't matter where he's playing. So, yeah. You make a good point with the midfield mix, and we'll be able to see those when they have the intra-clubs against other clubs, which means they'll obviously be running out with their full teams. And Port have 2 of them, one against the Crows, one against Freo, so we'll be able to watch the proper CBA mix, if you will, then. And that is important for this next guy that I'm going to bring up, who's priced 457k. Will Brodie. He is came from Freo, traded for pick 114 and an empty bag of chips. It was pretty good. Brodie had a sensational set. He averaged 95 and played along Brayshaw and Sarong as key midfielders in the team. So so he was 95, averaging that. So he doesn't have to be the first midfielder up in the squad up in like the first banana, if you will, like Zach Butters. You got your Bergmans, maybe even a Horn Francis, other blokes who are higher names and would be in the pecking order above him for him to still average highly. And you want to know who the midfield coach was when he averaged that, just out of curiosity?
Oh, no.
Josh Carr. It was Josh Carr, who's now the coach of Port Adelaide. So he likes him in
That's
there.
good.
He likes
That's
him
good.
in there.
That's
Yeah,
good scope.
exactly right.
Interesting.
Yeah, so he did only get 5 games the next year because he was battling injury, and then spent pretty much all of last year. I don't think he played a game last year. Spent all of last year in the waffle, and he averaged 82 in the waffle. So nothing pops out. He had like high scores like a 129 and a 110. But yeah, back with Josh Carr, I think he'll be liking it, and his price is at an average of 44, which means there's, even if he gets like a 60 to 70 in that price range, that's still 20 points right in the get-go. And you're looking at these first 4 teams, mate. You've got your Kangas, your West Coast, your Essendon. So he averages higher than that. Everybody on the team will average higher than that. There'll be so much dead rubber time in the end. Lots of tackles, all of this sort of stuff. Like, they will average high. And then if we want to get off him when we have those harder teams or when other people come back, like all that sort of stuff we say, he would have put a lot of cash on his head. So I just think with no buy, price at where he is, with the scoring capabilities that he has, like, he's not just a random name. He is someone who has been a proven scorer in the past. He's had a couple of rough years, but we know that he can do it. So trusted in that sense. New team, same old coach. I think all the stars are aligning to start with Will Brodie. Maybe not. I doubt we'll all have him at the end of the season, but definitely start with Will Brodie in your team. Any thoughts?
So where do you see him in the CBA mix? Like, is he 4th man, 5th man? Because obviously I mentioned before Ollie Wines coming back in round 3. That concerns me with these new midfield additions is that, again, if something doesn't work, they have a guy ready to throw straight in there.
Yeah. So I reckon my midfield for Port Adelaide this year would be Butters number 1, Bergman number 2, Willem Drew number 3. And then I see a mix of Will Brodie, Ollie Wines, maybe even a Horn Francis. I reckon they like him as that your Christian Petrarca, Marcus Bontempelli in and then pushing forward to kick the goals. Yeah. They like him as that, so I don't see him getting more CBAs than the other 3 that I said, like Drew and the Bergman and the Butters. Even though he's such a great player, he's too valuable down forward. But I see Brodie.
So what type of midfielder is he? I don't really remember him playing, to be honest. Like, is he a defense?
Yeah,
like, will he
he's not
hang around the half back line, or
the best? Like, I think what's the word when you? I can't even think of it. There we go. Bro, yeah, there we go. The best comparison, I think, it was like, I don't know why that was so hard for me to get. He's it's in my mind. You wouldn't have seen much of Robbie Gray when he was playing. I mean, he kicked a couple crazy game winners against you guys, but it's more the not necessarily like the when I think. Sorry, it's my home screen on my phone. Anyway, when he's like. Not necessarily, we see it as like the outside midfielder, so not necessarily in the guts, but he does get the tackles. So he's not the bigger body, he's not the strongest like workhorse like your Ollie Wines or like your Paddy Cripps, like just barreling through people. But like, you know, when you see like your Cozzy Pickett's in there, like your Shea Bolton's in there, obviously he's that kind of pace, that kind of agility, but a little bit taller. So I don't know if you've got a good comparison for that you can think of, and that's kind of just, I should have done a comparison chart in my head. But so he's not. Well, if you look at him, he's pretty slim. Obviously he's got muscles, but he's not like a bigger body black. So he's quick and he's fast and agility wise. So yeah, what are you thinking with that?
We spoke about with Gold Coast whether Petrarca coming in, because obviously Took Miller had the role of like the kind of mid pushing forward, and whether Petrarca would come in and they just kind of do that 50-50. So Petrarca plays 50% mid time, 50% forward, and Took Miller does the same. Could you see a similar thing happening with Horn Francis and Will Brodie, kind of trading mid to forward roles, or do you see one as more of a midfielder and one as more of a forward?
Yeah, I see him definitely doing that. I really see, as Ollie Wines gets older, I see Ollie Wines pushing forward instead of Brodie. So Ollie Wines and Horn Francis having that. We saw it with Boki when he went from inside mid to pushing forward and even to the wing. I see Will Brodie, if he's going to switch out anywhere, I see it to the wing because he's quick. He's got a huge tank. He can run and he's fast and he's quick. I see him as that wing player.
That's not terrible either.
No, and it's not. And we see
high scoring. The worst thing in the world.
Yeah, the wingers who just stay wing and you get on a cold wing sometimes it's tough. But Will Brodie will come in. He will come in for the CBAs. He will definitely get some. And if he doesn't, we've gained 100k cash. We can push him off to someone else. But I do see him being in there. That's like, we'll put Adelaide talk. I'd see him midfield to wing kind of thing rather than pushing back. But it's been 2 years since he's played proper AFL, had a full season of AFL. So, and new club, new coach would be interesting to see. So we'll track the preseason. He did in the intra-club, obviously, he was classed as a clearance beast. But that was, like you said, he would have been playing against the same, so 6 midfielders instead of 3 midfielders for Port Adelaide. So he still showed out against your Zach Butters, your Connor Rosie, your Zach Gunner. So if he stands out in that, you probably want to have him in there at some point. Anyway, you happy?
Yeah.
Happy with him? Happy to move on?
Yeah, happy to move on.
Yeah. All right. Now, Rucks. Difficult conversation. I brought it up a couple podcasts ago when you were talking about Briggsy. Now, everybody laughs at Jordan Sweet. He laughs at.
Just don't see it.
Yeah, I know you don't see it, and that's why I'm here to convince you. Before I get started,
convince me.
I found this little figurine of Jordan Sweet that I had in my room. I'll show it up to my camera first, and then Mason, I'll show it to you.
What is that?
Sorry, that is a little. If you're a Star Wars man, you're not a Star Wars man. Okay, so this guy's name is R2.
Yeah, I know who R2 did, but what's the?
Yeah. Well, Jordan Sweet, he's your R2. Simple as that. Put him in there. Right, priced $854. I can see you got your hands in your head. He averaged 81 last year. He averaged 81. He's 27 years old. He's still got a lot to go. The thing, Jordan Sweet has the ceiling. He has the floor as well, but he has the ceiling. And we're sharing the ruck every now and then with like blokes like your Vicentini. Even Soldo popped in for a couple games. But Jordan Sweet is the clear-cut number one ruck. It's as simple as that. He averaged the most he had the most CBAs out of the entire team last year. I reckon he's not necessarily reliant on the ruck contest as we saw, because I'm not sure if you're familiar with his game. He took a lot of marks down the wing. Like, if you think of your Max Gawn, you think of like pack marks down the wing. Wasn't necessarily pack marks, but I remember watching the one that really stood out to me was when he played against Rowan Marshall, and he was out-marking Rowan Marshall. And now we all know how good of a player Rowan Marr is, and like how strong. And Jordan Sweet was out-bodying and taking contested one-on-one marks down the wing. Like, I do see the ruck rules. I mean, we straight up don't know. We don't know what the ruck rules are going to do. We don't know who's going to benefit. We can guess, and we assume the bigger-bodied rucks are going to not benefit from them. But I really do see Jordan Sweet, I don't know, at least not being too bad. But the thing is, with the rucks this year, we could all set and forget right at the top, but that is a lot of cash. Now, there's the play of talking of going your one hyper-priced and then your value pick, whether that may be a Kieran Briggs or even a Sam Draper, if you really want to go to the bottom, Liam Reedy. Jordan Sweet as well. Now, I can't really remember what Briggs is priced at. Is he in the 700s? From recollection?
what is he? 738.
738. Yeah, 738. So Jordan Sweet is quite a lot. So he's 110k higher than that. But I look at his scores from last year, and he finished off the season. He had 132, 91, 117, 105, and a 60. Not in that order, but in his last 5 games. So once he got things clicking, and they were against like Lloyd Meeks was the 132. You had Riley O'Brien 91, Luke Jackson, that was not as good. And then Carlton, I think it was still DeConning 105, and then the one that he got low score of 67 was against Jared Whitty, who we all know is one of the hardest rucks to score against in the league. So he finished off, I think that was kind of his game as well. Like, they played against the Bulldogs, and in the game that Port got absolutely thumped in, and that was his lowest score of his season at that point. Yeah. And after that, he only had one game under 80, I think. He had 2 games under 80, but yeah, the one was right at the end of the game, and he had another 71 against the Eagles, which doesn't really make sense. Oh, that's because that Vicentini played that game. Anyway, but yeah, I think he took a bit to get going, and we picked him up from the Bulldogs 2 years ago. He wasn't the number one ruck at the Bulldogs, obviously. He was the number one ruck in the VFL side. But came to Port Adelaide where we still had Ivan Soldo and he was the number one ruck. And we had Dante Vicentini who was coming out of his shell and was getting a lot of the ruck time. They were splitting it. Back after the season, it was just Sweetie. And he showed it like with those scores that I read out to finish off the season. I think that he is the clear-cut number one ruckman. And when he does that, his floor isn't particularly as low as people think. People, when you think of like Sweetie, what are you thinking? Like a 60 kind of bloke. But he hit the 100.
There's a floor, yeah, like 70s.
Yeah, he hit 130. Like that was a real thing that happened, and he hit 117 and 103 in three of his last 5 games. He has the ceiling score. Briggsy, did we? And this is not to shit on Kieran Briggsy. He's a great player, but what was his ceiling like from last year? I don't recall.
Let's have a look at what his ceiling is. Because this is a good comparison. Sweet is slightly more, but most teams should have the flexibility to kind of swap around with that. So in terms of last year, 103, and he finished off on a 111, also against Hawthorn. 2024, he had a 122, 140, 136, 115, 121, 102, 111. So they're all his scores over 100 in the last 2 years. So he probably lost his ceiling a bit last year.
Yeah.
So maybe we're more so hoping that he gains it back. But
yeah, I was looking at that. I was looking into the rucks actually. There's a lot of the ruckmans you just think of old. Like I found out that Pitto is not 36. Anyway, it's actually it's gonna.
Everyone keeps saying this. I've known this because I know that he's like the same age as DeConning, and it's a bit weird. He does look a bit older, I think it's just because he's a bit of a slower, non-agile guy. And when you see him standing next to DeConning, it looks like there's a 10-year age gap, but I think they're like within a year of each other.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, but you always think they're with ruckmans, and I don't know. It's just so I don't actually know how old Breezy is. Anyway, the thing that I've noticed is that Breezy went down and Sweet went up in the end of the seasons kind of thing. I mean, yes, Breezy had that one at the end of the season. I don't know. We'll wait to see how they go in their thingy. When I think of Breezy, I think he let a lot of people down last year. Was that because of injury or that's just low scores?
Yeah.
Either way, he let a lot of people down. So
I think there was something with injury, and then I think there might have just been like really low. I'll get his scoring up, but it won't tell me why he was out. I'll see his injured scores though. I think he just had a couple games where I think he had like a concussion or something in opening round, maybe, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah,
he had an 8 in opening round on 12% TOG, came back in round 3, 80s, 90s, and then a 39 in round 6. And then his lowest score from there was a 52. So just like 50s, 60s, 70s was kind of his like floor. But that was a lot due to injury. If we look back to 2024 when he was not injured, his floor here, he's got a 69 as 62, 46 in round 1. But if that's a bit of an anomaly. 60s was like his floor, but most of his games sat in the 80s and 90s. And as many times as he went down to 60s, he's went up to like 120s. So kind of evened out for his, what did he average? 91.
Yeah. No, fair enough. I think I've lost you there. Oh, no, okay, all good. Yeah, okay, well...
Bit of internet connection problems, that's all right.
Yeah, as per usual. That's all right. No, but he ranked 4th in the This Is Sweetie last year with 37. Wait. I'm tripping balls. Ignore that comment. Anyway, I like Sweet. Each to their own. I went to the effort to dig out little Lego R2 just as Sweetie could be my R2.
I appreciate the effort. It's a good one. Can I have one counterpoint though?
I'll go for it, mate. Yeah, you probably have.
Can you read me out? Can you read me out Port Adelaide's opening, like that good run, the first 5 games or whatever it is?
Yeah. So Port Adelaide go. Where's the run? They go Sherry. No ruck Essendon.
So that was a 72 last year.
Yep.
So north of the 72, Essendon was a 92, okay.
West Coast, but if you look at that last year, that was a Vicentini.
71.
Yep.
Vicentini.
And then
sure.
St Kilda. St Kilda, which was Romar, and now will be DeConning.
Who will be different this year.
Yeah. Yep.
But it was a 71 still last year.
Yeah.
And then was it Hawthorn Geelong after that? I know that's not part of the good
can't
run.
remember.
Like, Hawthorn was the 132 and Geelong 117. So maybe it's almost the opposite of what the fixture is for everyone else for Sweetie. Maybe he's the type of guy that we pick up later even.
Because Ruck's
he'd be a good guy to, if you picked a Briggs or a Draper or something and they completely flopped and was a shit pick, just a nice little sideways. Because he's, like you said, his floor is not terrible. He's not really ever going to do terribly.
That's
so he'd be a nice sideways.
I don't mind that. It was interesting, and it was something to watch. Rucks are always hard with matchups because you can't use the same matchup as the team because they don't get the dead rubber time. They don't get the benefit of having easier matchups because often the worst teams have a pretty good ruck. Like you see, case in point is Sherry, who's arguably one of the best rucks, at least the best fantasy ruck in the league. Nank as well for Richmond. Yeah, it was really good. Romar was outstanding last year for St Kilda. I know St Kilda weren't the best. Melbourne Demons, Max Gawn. Essendon had no one. West Coast kind of had no one either. But those are the ones that at least I'm talking about. So fixtures wise for rucks, you got to look at who the ruck is rather than who the.
Yeah, it's also more of like a one-on-one matchup. Like you're literally playing on one guy for the whole game. Maybe a backup ruck, but the team probably has a backup ruck as well. Like it's not like a defender where they'll play one half, bouncing off half back and then they've got to go lock someone down, or a midfielder's gonna, I'm gonna tag Cripps, but now I'm gonna go off for the third quarter and then I'm gonna go back on in. Like it's very much I'm playing ruck, I'm playing against Max Gawn. Here's what he's going to hold me to the game. Like, there's not a whole lot of flexibility in changing roles mid-game, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, that was good. Thank you. Appreciate the Jordan Sweet chat. That was good. You actually got me thinking about that rather than
chat,
me. Yeah, so I like that. And that's something
it's an interesting pick, yeah.
Yeah, I assume we're going to be doing position previews before, or at least, like, strategy for previews.
We'll be doing that next after our...
yeah. So we'll... talk a lot about more of rucks specifically when we get to that. Okay, the last bloke for Port Adelaide that I want to mention, so who have I mentioned? I mentioned Butters, Rosie, Bergman, Brody, Sweet. The last one that I want to mention, do I actually have 6 players in my... Okay, anyway, there we go. I've got 6 Port Adelaide players in my phone. The last one I want to talk...
all of them.
I've got this guy as well. The last one I want to talk about, now, this may sound stupid, but I genuinely consider this one to be one of the maybe locks over the rest of them. I reckon this guy, Todd Marshall, I'm just going to put it out there, Todd Marshall, priced at $349K, has moved from full forward to full back. Now, I know we all got that thing with Jeremy Finlayson when he did that last year. Jeremy Finlayson just wasn't as good as a footballer. Sure, he's a great guy, but when he was up forward, he didn't take contested marks, and then we put him down back to take contested marks, and he didn't take contested marks, and then he wrote himself out of the team and got dropped. Todd Marshall's different. Todd Marshall is a known forward who's taken marks, kicked goals. We know he can do it. He's a big body. Have you seen the photos of him? I mean, it's preseason. Everyone always looks bigger, but he looks swole. He's looking a bit bigger. So I like when I think Todd Marshall, I think the lean, tall guy, like skinny blonde kid. But he's put on some weight, and I like it. I like the look of it. Now, I'm not going to speak anything on Todd Marshall's average because that was as a forward. I won't speak much about the half-backers for Port Adelaide, but I'm going to look at the blokes like Alia, Sava Radigalia, Zerk Thatcher, those kind of like the taller forwards. Now, Todd Marshall, 394K, I believe, priced at a 35. Is that right? Do I have that? Anyway, he's priced around there, at least.
Yeah, it sounds
right. Defenders for Port Adelaide, on a whole, average 66. Kane Farrell was the top with a 78 halfbacker. Jace Berger on 74 halfbacker. Alia, 57. Asava Radigalia, 50. So you look at those, you think if Todd Marshall, even if he's the worst of them all, as in the new position, you can still see him getting more points than what he's priced at. So we all look for blokes who are in that rookie pricing. At 349 chucks him under Willem Drew, who's the number 1 priced rookie. It's in that lower price. I've got him sitting in my F5 currently because I want some value in my forward line, and that allows me to, with a trusted player, a named player there's question marks whether about in the new side, whether he's going to be in the team or not. I think you've actually got to be stupid if you're questioning whether Todd Marshall is in Port Adelaide's best 22. I know it's a new position, and I know we've got some proper backmen who are incredible, but I just, even if they put him in there, I see this as like, you'd know better than me on how this worked, but believe Silvani for you guys last year, 2 years ago, he played predominantly as a forward and then last year moved to the back. I remember he was a value play at the start of the year that not many people, I had him from round one, and it went really well. He didn't tear the house down. He was priced under what he scored, and he got me 300k cash, and Bob's your uncle. There you go. Got my cash. See you later, Silvani. Thanks for your time. Didn't have to tear the house down. Didn't have to hit back to back 117s. Like, he got a couple hundreds. I see it only takes one good game, Todd Marshall, to score a 95, getting a couple marks in the back. In the scrimmage, he took a couple kick-ins. Rosie, Kane Farrell, I don't see him taking too many kick-ins. But it only takes one good game, Todd Marshall, to score a 90 in the first against the Kangaroos, the West Coast Eagles, Essendon Bombers, where there will be a lot of dead rubber time, a lot of chip to chip around the back in the last quarter. It only takes one good game for him to get his cash absolutely rolling, and then you've already made yourself 300 cash before you can even blink at the end of that good run, and you can jump him to someone who comes off of the buys after we have all of those buys. I think I see it as a really good cash play, a really good value play, and he's a named guy who we know can score, and we know he can mark and kick well. So I think there's no reason why you wouldn't at least consider the idea of having him in your back line. Do you think anything to shoot me down with this one?
Well, I also have him at F5, and I have also just realised that I have 5 Port Adelaide players. Jordan Sweat's the only one that I don't match you on, so I have all these guys on my side. I'm just quickly trying to look at, because the run is so interesting to me because it's what we're all kind of banking on. It's so hard to tell with these defenders because it's so, like, inconsistent with their scoring. It's kind of hard to tell matchups. I remember doing the fixture difficulty table last year, and the key backs and the key forwards is just like, it changes every week what's a good team and a bad team. You almost just have to say, you know what, it's a null point. They're not good or bad. They're just going to do something. But I see Marshall as a like, he's an athletic player. He's got the skills for the role. My slight concern is a bit the same with Bergman and Brody in the midfield, is that if it doesn't work, and which I don't see Port Adelaide doing in the first 5 games, but if they do start losing games, they've got, ready-made players, because you can't play all 4 of Aaliyah, Radigalia, Zerk Thatcher, Marshall. You probably play 2 or maybe 3. So there's going to be one of them missing out who's going to be raring to go. Like, it's not the safest position. You know better than me as a Port fan, but if Marshall doesn't work, they're ready to replace him with it's not going to be some VFL player. It's a ready-made key back. Yeah.
I understand where you're coming from with that, but the thing is, with Todd Marshall, I do not see, if Port Adelaide do move him from fullback, it's straight to the forward line. Like, Georgiades is your number one. Jack Lukosius was great, but Todd Marshall is too valuable of a player not to have in the team. Whether he's back or forward, is a really complete player, and he was our leading goal scorer the year before he got injured. Like, he's not just some bloke. Like, you're not just, he's told, chuck him in the forward line. He was literally our leading goal scorer in that year. And Port don't have other two. We have Georgiades as a tall forward. We have Jack Lukosius, who was injured for probably the better half of 40-50% of the season last year. And that's it for tall forwards for Port Adelaide that I can think. You got, like, your Jack Whitlocks, he's a rookie, and a couple others, like, but the rest are all small guys. Like, Ollie Lord is the other one. Yeah, he's the other one. But even then, Todd Marshall gets a game over Ollie Lord easily. So if I get where you're coming from with the concern about the back, because I also do see that happening as well. I reckon if this is a failed pick for Port Adelaide with him in the back line, but I reckon it's him moving to the forward line rather than him moving out of the team. So I get where you're coming from. And even when he was with the team, he was playing forward line. He still had some unreal scores because he was he'd kick bags of 6. So just getting to his stats, he's hit highs. The year before he hit in his opening run that we've got North Melbourne and Essendon and West Coast and stuff, he kicked 106 against West Coast. I think my power just went out. Okay. Anyway. Technical difficulties again. My power just went out, so lost connection and all that. Anyway, back to where I was.
Can I just say, I wasn't going to do it because I thought you were going to do it. How did you, of all people, not make a power out joke at you having a blackout? We're talking about Port. Like, how's this not popped in your head? That's an all-time blunder.
Yeah, that is real. And me, of all people, like, if you all you have to do is listen to any other podcast and you know that I'm just like full of shit jokes. There is nothing. I hate that fucking joke every time we lose.
It's a bit overused.
Fans, it's a power outage. It's a power outage. So and it's not that I genuinely didn't think of it. But I hate when that happens because it ticks me off because it's like, no, it wasn't a power outage. We just didn't play well. Shut the fuck up, you Crow supporters. Anyway, I hate when the people say that. So anyway, Pranav, you know what to do. Anyway, Todd Marshall scoring as a forward. There's not much to say. He's a key forward. We've already reached 41 minutes of talking about Port Adelaide. He's kicked high scores of 100 here and there. Like, he's a known scorer. Todd Marshall, lock him in, especially priced at where he has. There's literally no downside. He's not averaging less than 35.
Yeah,
it's as simple as that. Like, it's literally. And if he does, I'm not going to say what I'll do. Anyway, because then it will happen and then I'll have to do something. So, but no, so I've got, in my team, I've got Zach Butters as a lock in the M2, Rosie, D1, Bergman, D3, and then Todd Marshall as my F5, and then up for debate still, Jordan Sweat. So that's Port Adelaide. I don't see any other rookie. I mean, a big year for rookies, but I'm just going to leave it with that. I've already spoken a lot about him, so yeah. That'd be that.
Well, I'm the same. I've got everyone except Jordan Sweat that you just named. I just want to quickly, before we head to Richmond, mention, so Todd Marshall and Liam Reedy are like the exact same price, $394, and they have similar upside, I would think. There's a world where you can pick both because of how thin the forward lines are, if it means that you're going to spend up elsewhere. Like, I think I do have both, but I have Reedy as R3 because I've got Briggs, who's going to have a bye in round 4, and who I'm also still a bit iffy about. But I want an R2 that's not top price. So even if I were to go a Jordan Sweet or a Draper or someone like that there, I want to have the safety and having a good player there. And I think Reedy will be good cash gen anyway. I've got the cash to put him there. I don't mind having that much cash on my bench. So I have both of them, but I think you can have both in the forward line. And Reedy, just quickly, is 27.6% owned. Todd Marshall, 8.9% owned. So if you are looking for uniqueness, Marshall is the way to go, I think.
Dude, just as is a little ruck talk again, do Brisbane and Carlton have the same buy by chance? Because if not, a Draper and they do? Yeah, okay. I was going to say Draper and Reedy wouldn't have been the worst play there in the rucks if you wanted some value. But yeah, no, all right. Happy with that. Yeah, happy with Port Adelaide.
There we go, on to Richmond. So there's not a whole lot to talk about here, but they're not as irrelevant as you would think. Let's look back to the CBA. So Hopper, Taranto and Prestia were their main guys in there, 487, 451 and 209 for them. Obviously Prest was a bit injured, but had the same kind of market share when he was playing. So it's a big chance, I hope, this year for Sam Lawler to start getting a bit more of a stake in there. Drafted as a midfielder, they want him as a midfielder, just had to kind of ease him in last year, had some injuries. So just 64 CBAs last year, only 2 games above the 40% CBAs. I think Hopper and Taranto continue. Prestia, if he's injury-free, probably gets a bump because 209 CBAs as opposed to their 400 odds. It's not much. Jack Ross had 203 last year as the 4th man. You would think that maybe they possibly could put Lawler above him, although Ross did have a good season, so I could see maybe them continuing with him. The big ones for me are Camden McIntosh with 135 and Thompson Dow with 130. Both, so McIntosh retired, Dow delisted, both out of the club now. So I think Lawler could snap up some, if not all of those, and really stake a claim as the 4th or 5th guy, even with Jack Ross, I would think, which we'll talk about him later. For the price we would get him at, and as a forward, is a steal. The kick-ins, Nick Vlosten was the kicking king last year with 87, and he actually overtook Jaden Short, who we all thought would be really good. Everyone was pretty hot on him having that good half-back role, but importantly, Sam Banks also jumped him, which no one really could have predicted, I don't think, or at least I didn't. So we'll watch Banks throughout the preseason. I'll talk about him later. Maybe see if he can share a bit more of the kick-ins with Vlosten. So if Vlosten had 87, Banks had 48. If they can get to more of a 50-50-ish kind of role, and Banks can get up to 70, 80 kick-ins, we'll be seeing some big upside with him. Ruck contest, there's nothing to talk about here. Nank is Nank. He's just the number 1 guy. He'll continue doing that. 480 CBAs, like that's, I don't see. Thomas Sims was a little injured throughout the year, but played. sporadically as a second ruck or when Nank wasn't. Actually, I think Nank played every game, so not when he wasn't there. But yeah, he will just keep doing that. So let's look to this year and look at their ins and outs. It's all rookies that got in. Sam Grulj, his last name is spelled Grlj, so I honestly don't know how to say that. Could also be a typo on the AFL website, but sorry if I've minimized his name
that's,
to a typo,
that's how it's spelled.
that is his name? Right, okay. Whoops. So yeah, he's a 322k defender mid. Sam Cumming as well, 326k mid. So they were their two big ins last year, pick 7 and pick 8 they were. So they could pick up some game time. We'll talk about them later. Patrick Retschko, 230k mid. Noah Roberts-Thompson, 230k mid. And Zane Pecker, 230k mid forward. I don't think any of those play this year, but rookies that came in. And out, Kajitsky, Bauer, Young, Blight all played between 2 and 7 games, so not too much there. Thompson Dow, 11 games as a wing mid, and Camden McIntosh, 23 games as a wing mid. So that's huge market share for these kind of wing mid players. Perfect for Sam Lawler, who, again, we'll talk about later. So let's get to some players. Up at the top for the Tigers was Tim Taranto, average 93.9. He's 985k this year. I think I need to see a bit more from him. So he obviously had the great year in 2023 where he averaged like 120 or something before the bye, I think it was. But he's gone 95 2024 and now 93 in 2025. But interestingly, 2025 was his highest TOG ever in his career since 2017. Highest CBAs ever since 2017. Obviously, this is counting his career at the Giants as well. But it was his worst kick to handball ratio since 2017. Or no, ever, sorry. He actually beat it in 2017. Worst tackles since 2022, so the year before his big year. And his worst average kicks since his debut season in 2017. So TOG CBAs are right. So he's kind of, the role is right for him. Number one mid, heaps of CBAs on the ground all the time, 85%. He's just not doing anything with it, which is really odd. So I'm not super keen because I feel like there's not room for him to improve. He's already got the role and he's not doing anything. So I kind of need to see him really crush it to pick him up. But he could be a bit of value if he gets back to his best, obviously. Priced at 93, his best being like a 105, 110. So there's plenty of meat on the bone if he can get back there. But he's the only premium I'm willing to talk about at the Tigers. We'll get into a little bit of value, or maybe an underpriced premium in Sam Banks as a defender, average 79. And that's what he's priced at 831k. I'm putting him on the watch list, so I think he's a good pick. He had his name plastered all over a halfback kick role for this year. He's had it all preseason, similar to what we expected of Jaden Short. So I'm really interested in this comparison. As I said before, we expected Short to take all those kick-ins, and with all the news, he still had less kick-ins than Vlosten and Banks, who again, no one could have predicted. He just didn't really pop off Short, so I wonder if it could be the same story for Banks this year, or maybe Banks being a bit of a younger player, they're happy for him to take that role and run with it in a bit more of an inexperienced side. In the 4 games that he had over 4 kick-ins, I know that's a small sample size, 4 games, but he averaged 102.5. Now, obviously, we're not going to expect him to do that, but it shows that he can score with that. And when he had 1 or less kick-ins, so 1 or 0 kick-ins, he averaged 61. So, obviously, a kick-in is only 3 points because that's what a kick is, but it's just the role and the whereabouts of where he is when he's taking kick-ins in that back line that I think is super interesting. Could you see yourself picking Banks? Because I've heard a lot of people with him in their side so far.
Yeah, I haven't personally entertained the idea of him. Like, I like him. I think, did you ever pick him up last year? I know you were you're hot on him throughout last year, or at least we brought him up a lot. Now,
I don't think I did.
No, at least we talked about him a lot. During as possible. And he's 831k price at 79. He is a known scorer. Like, from memory, I'm just getting his stats up now. He does have a high ceiling. So yeah, 110, 113. 121 in the last game of the season, and that was against the Cats as well. So he can hit these highs, but the thing for me is he has the floor. So he's hit a 20, hit a 50, hit a 40 all last year, 250s actually all last year as well. So when I'm looking at defense, and he's priced at 831, someone around who's priced, or we've already talked about today, is priced pretty much exactly the same. I just find more security in other players like your Bergman or even like a Colby who we talked about in the last episode, all priced around the same price. So certainly no chip on Sam Banks' shoulder. He has the ceiling. He can hit that, but it's the floor that I look at when I look at him.
Yeah, definitely. Interestingly, he's only 22. I didn't actually think he was that young. He's only played three. This will be his fourth season, so maybe some of those the low floors start to kind of iron out, hopefully. But yeah, it's a risky one at 831k. So we'll put it on the watch list, and if it really starts to look like he has a good role, we can add him to our sides. Sam Lawler is up next, forward. Priced at 54, which was his average last year, 567k. I'm putting him in as a lock. I've got him just in front of Marshall actually at F4. So I think as a forward option with natural progression, this is a great pick. So his average goes up 5 points to 59.1 without that injured score in there. And then I think that was like an 8 or something in his last game. And then a 63.3 average without that 24 in there, which he scored on 64% time on ground. So that's already almost 10-ish points, 9 points on his score if he, you take out those injured games. Obviously, he could get injured again, but we hope not. But like I spoke about before, the McIntosh and Dow leaving, I think Lawler is the guy that they just want in there. I mean, he's their Harley Reid, he's their Sheasel, he's their Dacos, like their young star that is kind of the spine for them. And for them to kind of go somewhere from here, they're not getting anything out of him playing him in the forward line or on a wing or on halfback or whatever. They need him in the midfield. That's like where he plays. And I guarantee you once he gets a spot in there, he'll be one of those guys that we go, he can't play anywhere else. He's a midfielder, because that's what he is. So let's look at when he did score as a midfielder. He had 2 games over 40% CBAs and scored a 62 and a 55. So not great. But again, his first season was kind of riddled with injury, which is not great. So hopefully he can have a bit more put together of a season this year and put together a better score. I think he could be a 70 to 80 average if he gets a good CBA role, which is, 20 to 30 points upside. And in our forward line, that's amazing. So I'm locking him in. And then we'll talk about some rookies just quickly. Sam Cumming at 326k. I'm putting him at a lock. Number 7 draft pick. He should play early in the season at kind of a midfield half back role. Even at 326k, the elevated price, I'd probably still lock it in. I think that Richmond's going to be a team that is going to be easy to find and kind of lock down a role. So I'm happy to lock him in on my midfield. I mean, if he's selected, if we see some good things from him in the preseason, I don't even object to, I have him sitting at M7 right now, just in front of Jagger Smith. So you could even play him on field, I think. Sam Grulge at 322k. I've put him on a watch, so he could get a game, pick 8. Not quite as much of a lock as Cumming at this stage from what I've heard from preseason reports. He's not as much of a fantasy player as well. I think he's like a straight midfielder. I haven't actually read his draft profile. Probably should do that, but he's not as much of a lock in their side, so maybe just watch to see if he gets named or if we see a good role in the preseason. And the last one here is Josh Smiley, who was a rookie for us last year, an elevated rookie as a high draft pick, but obviously was injured all year, unfortunately. So he's 230k now on an injured score. I think if he's playing and if we can see him all preseason uninjured, he's a lock because he is the perfect fantasy player. One of the better fantasy players coming through the competition right now. Could slot into some midfield time if he stays fit. I've had a look at a lot of, Richmond best 23 predictions, and he kind of fits in there in that kind of 4th, 5th man midfield or on the interchange. So if he does get games, I think that he's a lock, but we'll just watch the fitness over the preseason. But those 2 rookies are interesting. We're locking in Sam Cumming. And the others, we're locking in Lawler, Watch Banks. That's kind of all we're interested in, really. There's not a whole lot, unfortunately, from a non-buy team. Not too much from the Tigers. Who are you interested in from the Tigers?
From the Tigers, Sam Lawler. I had a cherry pick stat that I heard, I think it was Ball Boys or something. You know how everyone compares him to Dustin Martin? He wears the number 4 and all that sort of stuff. Just a little stat for you. Dustin Martin in his first year averaged 60. In his second year, boosted up to 89 fantasy points. So,
well, there you
Sam
go.
Lawler going into the second year.
There you go.
I do have Sam Lawler in my team, also at F4. And
nice.
I really like it. And it's good for the structure as well. I like having he's priced at 567 and he's in F4. I reckon that's great value, and you got cash to spend in other places. I'm still mucking around with my structure, but we'll talk about that later in a different podcast. But I think that's what I got for the Tigers. Yeah.
There you go. Well, off to you.
All right. Moving on to St Kilda. I'll be short because there's not too much to talk about. Not that I'm not excited, because let's be real, Sam Flanders, everybody should have in their team. Simple as that. Absolutely. He should be 100% owned.
The lock.
So I'll just quickly talk about last year. The story of last year was Nasiah Wanganeen-Miller. He was unreal. 110.8 he averaged. I think he was probably up there, at least definitely top 5 scoring. I reckon Bailey Smith, Max Gawn, I can't think of anyone else. Anyway, absolute gun, and still at the club that he loves. That was the big talk in the trade season. Then it was Rowan Marshall, who averaged 105. Jumped on him early. And then it was Jack Sinclair, who had 100 as well. So those are the top 3 for them. Some of the higher averaging players actually came from St Kilda, which is cool. But the list changes for the Saints. This is really cool for them, at least. I'll just go straight for the ins. Forget about the outs. Doesn't really, but they basically lost nobody other than Jack Steele, who went to Melbourne. That was a pretty big loss, obviously. But the ins, mate, listen to this: Tom De Koning, Sam Flanders, Liam Ryan, Jack Savani. That is an incredible list. Now, this is good and bad for this. It's great for St Kilda. Bad-ish for us as fantasy owners because we're not quite sure how some of these blokes are going to look. So the big one is Tom De Koning, Rowan Marshall. How that's going to work, I don't know. I can't think. Rowan Marshall played a little bit of time up forward last year, but that was more so because he was injured rather than because he was a forward. But we know he can kick goals, so he can goes up there. When I think of De Koning, I don't really think you obviously have seen him for a lot longer than I have, but I don't picture him as a key forward kind of thing.
He's played forward a fair bit. I think he had a whole season. It might have been 24 maybe, where most of it was Pitton at number 1 ruck, De Koning like a 30 to 40% chop out kind of as a forward, because it was the year maybe that Charlie Curnow was injured or Harry was injured, or they were both they couldn't get on the park together or something. But essentially, when one of them couldn't get on the park, Tom De Koning was in as like a chop-out ruck forward. So he can play that, but I've heard that St Kilda are keen to play Marshall there, and that De Koning is like their preferred ruckman, essentially. But it's a close split. It's not like a 70-30. It's more like a 55-45 kind of thing. So
cool.
I think we're probably waiting to see it and probably avoiding, is my view.
Yeah. All right. Well, looking at the CBAs for last year, it was Rowan Marshall, obviously, and there was no other ruck. Pretty much, I think they have Harry Boyd, played like 1 game.
Yeah.
Anyway, but no, for the midfielders, it was Jack Steele was the number 1, and then Jack McRae, and then it was actually Hugo Garcia. Now that's surprising because we were all like, he didn't play much in our minds at least, but when he did play, he was getting like 60, 70, even 80% CBAs, which was hard because Ross the boss liked to just like, oh yeah, you're in, sub, oh yeah, see you later, you dropped. But yeah, he was the 4th one in there for them. And Windhager, obviously, they used him as a tagger. Nasiah Wanganeen-Miller played in the midfield, predominantly in the back half of the year. So since round 19, round 19, he played 79, 60, 83, 80, and then 67% CBAs. So I'm not too sure how the Saints roll out their team this year, but I can see Nasiah Wanganeen-Miller getting a boost in CBAs this year. What do you think about that?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I've heard the word from St Kilda is that they're keen on him like being a midfielder now. I think Jack Steele leaving was kind of him leaving that number 1 midfield mantle up to Nasiah. He's had his breakout year. He's signed the big contract. He's, one of the faces of the AFL now. I feel like they're just wanting to put him straight in there. My interest with their CBA mix is that Jack Steele's gone as kind of the contested winner. I haven't actually looked at the stats, but that's what I assume would have been the thing. Who replaces him now as that? Because Nasiah's not that. He's a speedy ball winner. McRae's not that. He's a, accumulator. Who else was in it? Garcia's not that.
Yes.
Windhager is probably the
Sam
one
Flanders
that I
is
can
not
think of.
that guy.
Yeah, Flanders is not really a contested. I think it's Windhager, and so I don't know if you're going to talk about him or not, but there's a world where I could see him having a little uptick. I haven't actually looked at him at all, but just thinking about it now.
Yeah, I was going to speak about Windhager, and then I looked at his floor, and his floor is shocking. But I will quickly just jump to it. Let me get him back up.
860k.
Marcus Windhager. There's only 2 Marcuses in that can't be right. Anyway, sorry, that was a bit of a shock. There's only 2 Marcuses in the AFL. There you go. So we look at Windhager's scores, and now he is an absolute. You're right. He has the ceiling of all ceilings. He scores 133 against the Tigers, 128 against the Swans, 117 against the D's. But the one that gets me is Marcus Windhager's one of the best taggers in the game. Not the best tagger. I think we'll leave that for like your. Anyway, he's probably one of the best taggers in the game. I don't know why. I just can't
Yeah.
think of any other taggers other than
No,
Kevin Nash.
maybe he is the guy. I can't
Maybe
think
he's
of
the
really
guy.
anyone
Maybe he's
better
the
than
number
him.
one tag.
He's the one we've been scared of for a
Geelong?
long
No.
time. Everyone
Yeah.
else just kind of
It's
uses
windy,
like
and then it was
B-grade
Shane
players.
Cotter kind of jumped in. Like,
James Jordan from Sydney was the big one as well.
that's the guy. Yeah, that's what I'm
Good
thinking.
tagger.
Did Geelong
Yeah.
have one? Did they just get tagged?
Geelong
That
was
good.
O'Shea
O'Shea
Mullen.
Mullen.
Yeah, but he kind of
Yeah.
doesn't play that a lot.
When he does, he shuts down. Anyway,
Yeah.
my point being, Windhager is an incredible tagger, and he will do that. It's as simple
Yeah,
as that. Even especially if St Kilda are competitive this year with their new list, I can see them being a little bit more competitive. I can see them being a little bit even more of a harder matchup this year for sure. If he is in there as a tagger, his scores aren't very good. We look at Port Adelaide where he tagged Butters, he scored a 50. He scored a 54. We took a Collingwood where he tagged Dacos, he scored a 41.
Yeah,
Like
not
he has
ideal.
the floor when he's a tagger. So, and he's priced quite highly. But yeah, certainly one to watch. I do like that shout. That's a good poll. I wasn't going to bring him up in this chat, but glad that you did. That was a good shout.
Thank you.
The ones I wasn't going to talk about, it's going to be short and sweet. Nasai Wanganeen-Milera, incredible player. We all know he's going to absolutely rack. The only thing is for me, we're not siding with him because he's priced so highly.
Yeah.
1,163,000. It's just yes, he will score so highly, but do you really want an extra 6 to 10 points over Rosie for 160k? And he's got Saints have that round 4 bye. It's the good bye, but they still have a bye, correct? Yeah,
It's
But
not great.
you can't do it. But mate, will we be targeting him later on in the season? 100%. Like he's going to be D1 for the entire year. In as far as points go, probably I can see that being. And that's not even a big call. That's just genuine. The guy that I will and not even talk about because there's not much to say other than the fact that he's an absolute lock is Sam Flanders. He's the Bailey Smith of last year, priced at 716. When he played on the Suns in 2024, he averaged 107, and that was in the back line, off halfback, and a little bit of stints in the midfield as well. Then they chucked him around, chucked him forward, scored 67. Bloke was not having any of it. But it was great for us in fantasy because he dropped a bunch in price, and he got kicked off to a team that loves to just say, that's cap, Ross the boss does whatever he wants. Anyway, but Flanders will get some midfield time. It's as simple as that. And if he doesn't get midfield time, they're not putting him forward. They got like a bunch of guys up forward, like your Jack Higgins, your Mitch Owens, even like Silvani probably plays forward of him. If he goes anywhere, he goes to that half bank with Sinclair and stuff. Because guess who's left the half back line now? Nasai Wanganeen-Milera.
Well, this is the
some points
thing.
there for him to rock up.
Is that I've heard some things. I think I heard it on Ball Boys maybe that they're playing him as a midfielder, but his resting position will be half back. And essentially, I actually like the shout of St Kilda have more prominent small forwards or mid-sized forwards as opposed to Gold Coast, who I really can't think of one, or at least one that would be as good as
Jeffrey.
him. I mean, he played a little bit of like wing time as well, which they have covered with guys like Mason Wood, Darcy Wilson, play those roles. So I don't think that that's going to be an issue for him either. And, even in their midfield, they've got guys. Philippou could come back and play like a mid-forward kind of role. I mean, obviously Wanganeen-Milera is that kind of mid-half-back, but I see Flanders being that as well, which he still flourishes in that half-back role, so I don't think there's any worry on him. My only worry would be if they do send him forward. That's like my only little thing, which I just don't see happening anyways. So, yeah, absolute lock.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. And there's not much more to say about that. You look down, a bloke that you did mention was Philippou, price 610k. He's up and down and really not sure. So if anything, this is just add him to your watch list because his ownership will be extremely low, probably for a reason. But if he goes all right in his first, he has the round 4 bye, which is the good bye.
I'd be willing to wait.
Which means, 100%. That's what I'm saying. We jump off him in round 5. And that's so everyone will have time, which is why I didn't have much written about him other than he averaged 35 in an injured season. Like, he's cheap for a reason. But he did all right. Like, high scores, 117, 93, 96, not even 119 when he was in the midfield in 2024.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If he gets that midfield role, he's genuinely the real deal and could be like, I don't want to say it, but could be a top 6 forward with our forward line this year. Like, that's a genuine take. I'm just willing to spend 100 to 200k more on him just to see it over opening round in the first 3 rounds. I just don't want to be fooled into it because I almost was preseason last year, and then I was at the mid-season buys last year, and he fooled me into it, and I got stuck with that 2 or whatever he scored, which was terrible.
Yeah, that's tough. But yeah, and that's it for the Saints as well. They don't really have any rookies. They've got such depth with just like consistently mid players. Like they're not going to any rookies that they brought in. So, and they barely had any draft picks because they used all their draft picks to pick up all those big guys. So that's the Saints. I think we got Sam Flanders, and that's kind of it.
Yeah, pretty much. That's all I'm locking in with that round 4 buy. But Phillippa, I'm definitely watching. Windhager's an interesting one, and I'll definitely be looking for a Wangan Miller after his buy. I'm hoping he can drop a bit in price, and I can jump onto him. But yeah, that's
nice one. All right. Well, with any luck, your power was on the mark, and bloody hell.
And not off the mark like Casey's. And we'll be back on, what day is it? We'll be back on Monday or Tuesday.
Monday,
it'll come out. And we'll be going through the last 3 teams, which is
the
Sydney,
West
Coast Bulldogs. And then we'll be done, and we'll be moving on to positional, I believe. I think we're doing some positions, going through each one. We'll do a big episode on each position and talk some structure exactly as we now have the game at release. But yeah, I guess we'll see you next week.
Awesome. See you later.
See you then.